Welcome to episode 4 of my Special Ops Challenge Guide series. Today's episode covers the Howitzer challenge. Kill an enemy by triggering an explosive with another explosive. By far, this is my personal favorite calling card for the Special Ops challenges. It depicts a ghillie-suited sniper camping his dick off right before shooting a bullet straight through your face. Ironically, this calling card depicts pretty accurate tactics for this challenge, as you'll soon see. So there's 3 viable ways to complete this challenge. Luckily, this is one of the easier Special Ops challenges to complete. The only drawback to 2 of these strategies is that it requires you to be a decent level due to some of the items necessary. So method number 1 is completely luck dependent, and I wouldn't recommend it. Simply run a lethal item at all times. On the very rare chance you happen to see an enemy's deployed explosive item, such as the trip mine or a C4, simply chuck your grenade at it. With a little luck, there will be at least one enemy nearby it, which will result in a triggered explosion and net you the challenge. There's just too much chance involved with that strategy, and it'll likely take you an eternity to find such a scenario. Luckily though, the next 2 strategies are much easier and will almost guarantee you'll complete this challenge. So first of all, we need to figure out what exactly works for this challenge. I went and tested each and every item I could think of that would possibly work for this. There's only 2 deployable explosives, the trip mine and the C4. There's 4 launchers, the Spartan, the P-Law, the Howitzer, and the classic weapon, the OSA's Noob Tube. With the first method, we obviously saw that the trip mine works for this challenge. I can also tell you that the C4 works. So to test the launchers, all we have to do is set up a trip mine or a C4 and shoot the launcher in its vicinity, which will then detonate it and hopefully kill an enemy. So first up, the P-Law. I've got the exact scenario described here. And upon shooting the launcher, the C4 is caught in the blast, which explodes and then kills the enemy. No challenge complete pops up, so this excludes the P-Law. Next, let's try the Spartan SA3 launcher. You can see here that I have a C4 set up on the C flag, and I'm patiently awaiting for an enemy to get caught in my web. And this newbie booby takes the bait. The C4 is triggered and he dies. Again though, no challenge complete pops up, so that'll also exclude the Spartan. That leaves us with 2 launchers left, which coincidentally are both noob tubes, the Howitzer and the OSA special attachment. Let's try the Howitzer first. Using the same tactics as before, triggering the C4 to blow with this launcher successfully completes the challenge, indicating that this weapon is viable. So knowing that the Howitzer works, we can safely conclude that the OSA's noob tube also works. I'm not sure why the other 2 launchers don't, but apparently the challenge fancies noob tube explosions over rocket launcher type explosions. You probably noticed just how easy the tactics for this challenge are by now, but there's a few things I wanted to mention that can make it even easier. First of all, game mode. If you play domination, you can easily put the spiderweb type tactics to use. Simply place the trip mine or the C4 on a flag and lie in wait nearby. Your best bet is to find cover to hide behind. This is particularly useful since you can also see your own equipment through the wall. Then, once you notice your flag being capped, spring into action and launch your noob tube in the vicinity of the explosive. One thing you need to be cautious of is where your launcher's explosion hits. This challenge will only complete if the C4 or the trip mine shows up in the kill feed. As you can see in this example, despite me dying in the process, my projectile was close enough to trigger the C4, but at the same time not a direct impact on the enemy. You can clearly see the C4 was the culprit for his death. That's exactly what we want. Now in this example, despite not seeing my enemy, my shot somehow must have bounced directly into him. You'll see my deployed C4 does not trigger, and thus the kill feed shows my Howitzer as the kill. This obviously would not have completed the challenge. You also need to be aware of the blast radius that will trigger your deployed explosive. In this example, my C4 is too far to the left, and I shot my noob tube to the right. The launcher's explosion slightly damages my enemy, but you'll notice it doesn't trigger the C4 at all. Likewise, ensure that your enemy is within the blast radius as well. In this clip, everything is set up to plan except I blew my load too early. The enemy jumped on the flag but continued right off it just as I set the explosion, which only resulted in a hit marker. You may sometimes have trouble utilizing the outside flags in domination. Enemies may simply never come around to capture the opposite flag. If you notice that to be the case, utilize the B flag to your advantage. People technically should always be attempting to cap it if they're playing the objective, so plant your C4 on it and again hide and wait. Also, if you're quick enough, You can try to deploy the C4 as well as your noob tube while an enemy is actively capping the flag. More often than not, they'll be too focused on capping to notice the C4 come flying in, so you can quickly follow it up with the noob tube and complete the challenge. Now obviously, the Howitzer is superior to the OSA's noob tube, considering it has 3 grenades compared to 1 on the assault rifle. Likewise, the C4 is more discreet and compact than the trip mine, so I highly advise you to go with the Howitzer C4 combo. Now with that said, you can increase your opportunity by equipping both weapons. You don't necessarily need 2 C4s, as chances are you'll end up dying before you can attempt to use the second one, should the first fail. You should definitely run Ghost as well as the Dexterity perk, so you can stay off the radar and swap to your Howitzer faster. Lastly, Synaptic's Rewind payload can be quite beneficial. If you weren't aware, Rewind not only replenishes your health, but also your ammo, and this applies to launchers as well. And that, as they say, is that. To maximize your opportunities for completing this challenge, you may as well run both the guaranteed launchers that work, the Howitzer and the OSA's noob tube. Place a C4 on a flag in domination, and sit back in anticipation for an enemy to waltz in and take the flag. As they do so, fire off your grenade launcher close enough to the C4 to trigger its own detonation, being careful to avoid direct impacting the enemy with your launcher itself. And if domination isn't your cup of tea, you can utilize the same tactics in any game mode. And if you go this route, I recommend doing it just around a corner, so that your enemy will round blindly and walk right into your domino effect. Using these tactics, you should get this challenge complete in just a few games. Considering the difficulty of some of the other Special Ops challenges, this one is a breeze. And if all else fails, use your noob tubes for what they were truly intended for, inducing rage.